Hey guys, tonight we begin with laundry. Not the easy kind with a warm dryer, a soft basket, and a little cheerful beep at the end. The older kind, the wet kind, the heavy kind. The kind that could steal an entire morning before you had even decided whether the day was going well. If you enjoy slow, quiet histories like this, feel free to subscribe to Night Pages and like the video so more calm stories can find their way to sleepy listeners. And if you want, leave a comment telling me where you're listening from tonight and what time it is there. Now dim the lights a little. Let the room get quiet. And imagine there is no washing machine in the next room, no spin cycle, no detergent pod, no dryer sheet, no clean cotton towel waiting in a warm pile. Instead, you wake in a small house where yesterday's clothes are still very much with you. The first thing you notice is the smell, not because anyone is especially careless. People are trying, but cloth is expensive, water is heavy, soap is not something to waste. And most people do not own enough clothing to change into something fresh whenever they feel like it. Your shirt has history, your apron has opinions. Your stockings, if you have them, have been on a long journey with your feet and would prefer not to talk about it. A modern laundry basket is mostly an older laundry pile is different. It has weight, it has weather, it has a full day's labour folded into it before the washing has even begun. Linen sheets, wool garments, work shirts, baby cloths, towels, rags, aprons, the better household pieces saved for serious washing. Once soaked, a sheet stops feeling like fabric and begins behaving like a pale, exhausted animal. It must be lifted, dragged, twisted, beaten, rinsed, and convinced to become useful again. Before breakfast is truly finished, someone has to fetch water. If you are lucky, there is a pump nearby. If not, there is a walk, then another walk, then another. Laundry drinks water greedily. Every bucket has to be lifted, every pot has to be filled, and if hot water is needed, the fire must be fed until the room grows damp and warm, as if the house itself has started to sweat. That is the first secret of washing before machines. Laundry is not one job, it is a chain of jobs. Gather the clothes, sort the fabric, heat the water, prepare the soap. Soak the cloth, rub it, rinse it, wring it, carry it outside, hang it, watch the sky. Hope the weather does not betray you, because the sky is part of the laundry too. A modern dryer does not care if it rains. A line of wet linen cares very much. One grey cloud can turn hours of labour into a damp little joke. Wind can help you or steal from you. Smoke from a nearby fire can scent your clean sheets with old chimney. Dust can settle. Birds can make comments. And if the air is cold, the laundry may hang stiff and stubborn, drying so slowly it seems to be thinking about it. So tonight, we are going to follow that hidden work. We will see how people washed before washing machines, how soap, ash, rivers, tubs, paddles, washboards, and tired hands all became part of keeping a household clean. For now, stay beside the warm tub. Listen to the water move. Hear the slap of wet cloth, the creak of wood, the low voices in the room. The work is only beginning. And somewhere outside, under a grey morning sky, a line of laundry is waiting to decide whether it feels like drying today. Before anyone can wash a shirt, the water has to arrive. That sounds simple, only if water already lives in your walls. In the modern house, water is almost invisible. It appears when summoned, a tap turns, a pipe sighs. A machine fills itself with a confident little rush, as if clean water is a polite servant waiting just behind the plaster. But in the older world, water has weight, it has distance, it has weather. It has a handle that bites into your fingers and a bucket that seems to grow heavier with every step back to the house. So before the real washing begins, someone must go and fetch it. Maybe there is a well in the yard. Maybe there is a village pump. Maybe there is a stream at the bottom of a slope that feels gentle when you walk down it, and much less gentle when you come back carrying 2 full pails. If the household is poor, the buckets are not decorative. They are not charming little rustic objects placed beside a fireplace for atmosphere. They are tools with grudges. Their wooden staves swell and shrink, their iron hoops rust, their handles creak. And when they are full, they pull your shoulders down, as if trying to remind you that cleanliness is not a mood, it is a load. Now imagine doing this not once, but again and again. Laundry is thirsty work. A little water is needed for soaking, more water for washing, more for rinsing. If the clothes are very dirty, the first water becomes grey and tired almost immediately, and then more water is needed because apparently the dirt has brought friends. A family with sheets, shirts, aprons, baby cloths, towels, towels and work garments may need a shocking amount of water before the day is over. Every bucket comes from somewhere. Every bucket must be carried by someone. And if the water is cold, which it often is, your hands learn about it first. Cold water changes the whole feeling of the work. It bites the fingers, it stiffens the skin, it makes wet cloth feel more stubborn. In winter, the bucket itself may be cold enough to hurt, and the stream may be edged with ice, and the simple act of dipping a pail becomes a small argument with the season. But hot water is not free either. To heat water you need fuel, wood, charcoal, peat, brush, whatever the household uses. Fuel has to be gathered, bought, chopped, stored, carried and fed into the fire. A large pot has to be set over the heat. The room fills with steam, smoke finds the eyes. Someone leans in to stir or lift or pour, and the warmth that sounds pleasant from a distance becomes damp, close and tiring. This is why older laundry days often begin early. Not because everyone is excited, because the water takes time, the fire takes time, the cloth takes time, and the sun, if you are lucky enough to have it, will not wait forever. There is also the question of where the washing happens. Some families wash at home in tubs, others go to a river, pond, stream or communal washhouse. In towns, public washing places could become noisy, damp, practical worlds of their own. Women might kneel or stand with sleeves, cloths spread over stones or boards, voices rising over the slap of linen and the rush of water. It was work, but it was not always silent work. News travelled there, complaints travelled there, advice travelled there, whether invited or not. Someone might know whose husband had been lazy, whose daughter was marrying, whose cow had escaped, whose bread had failed, and which neighbour had apparently decided that rinsing properly was optional. A washhouse could be a place of labour and community at the same time, not cosy in the modern sense, more like a damp social engine powered by sore backs and strong opinions. And the water itself was not always as clean as you might hope. A river used for washing might also receive runoff, mud, animal traffic, dye waste, kitchen scraps, or whatever else the settlement had decided to share with it. People understood clean water mattered, but they did not always have perfect choices. Sometimes the same stream that helped rinse your linen had already met livestock upstream and was keeping quiet about it. So washing clothes before machines was never just a private household chore. It was connected to wells, rivers, fuel, weather, neighbours, roads, animals, and the strength of whoever had to carry the buckets. By the time the water is finally ready, the laundry has not even truly started. The shirts are waiting, the sheets are waiting, the tub is waiting. Your hands are already cold or hot or sore. And somewhere in the room, a pile of cloth lies there with the heavy silence of something that knows it is about to become your entire day. Sorting laundry sounds like a small modern habit, a quiet little ritual performed beside a plastic basket, while the machine waits with its round glass mouth open. But before washing machines, sorting was not a matter of convenience. It was strategy. It was damage control. It was the first serious decision of the day, made while standing over a pile of cloth that smelled faintly of smoke, sweat, damp straw, kitchen grease, candle wax, animal work, and the mysterious private history of every human body in the house. You do not simply throw everything together. White linen is one problem, coloured wool is another. Delicate lace is a nervous little aristocrat that cannot be treated like a farm shirt. Baby cloths have their own alarming honesty. Work aprons may carry flour, blood, mud, soot, fish, milk, or all of them in a collaboration nobody requested, so you begin by separating the pile. The finest pieces are handled carefully, not because anyone has spare time, but because replacing cloth is expensive. Fabric took land, labour, spinning, weaving, dyeing, cutting, sewing, and mending. A shirt is not disposable, a sheet is not merely bedding. A linen tablecloth might represent months of household work quietly folded into a cupboard. To ruin it in one careless wash would be a small domestic tragedy with soap bubbles. Some stains must be treated before the general washing begins. Grease may be rubbed with soap or ash solution. Mud may be dried and brushed. Blood is better approached with cold water, not hot, unless you enjoy setting evidence into fabric like a medieval detective with poor instincts. Ink requires patience, luck, and perhaps a prayer addressed specifically to whoever invented writing. Then comes soaking. Soaking is the part of laundry that appears to do nothing, which makes it the spiritual ancestor of many household chores. Cloth lies in water, time passes, you stare at it. The water slowly darkens, proving that something is happening, though not quickly enough to satisfy anyone with a spine. In some homes, garments soak overnight. In others, they sit in tubs while fires are built and more water is fetched. Stronger fabrics may be left in alkaline solutions made from wood ash, or treated with soap, urine, stale lye, or whatever cleaning method the household knows, trusts, or merely has available. Yes, stale urine appears in old cleaning practices more often than modern people would like. It contains ammonia, and ammonia helps break down grease. History is full of useful facts that do not improve the smell of a room. Imagine standing in the wash area before dawn, sleeves rolled, hair tucked away, feet cold against the floor. The first tub is filled. The cloth goes in. You press it down with a wooden paddle or your hands, and air bubbles rise through the water like the laundry itself is sighing. There is no button to press after this. There is only waiting, lifting, judging, turning, and preparing for the real violence of the wash. A good soak can loosen dirt, but it does not absolve the worker from labour. It merely softens the enemy. The grime in collars, cuffs, underarms, hems, sheets, and kitchen cloths still needs persuasion. The water grows cloudy. A film gathers at the surface. The air becomes damp and sour and warm if the fire is going, and all the while the sorted piles wait nearby like little hills of obligation. Cleanliness in the old world is not a single act. It is a sequence. Fetch, heat, sort, soak, scrub, boil, beat, rinse, wring, dry, mend, fold. Each step prepares the next, and each step can go wrong in a new and educational way. So when someone says laundry took all day, this is part of why. The washing had begun long before the first serious scrubbing. It began with a woman or servant or child looking at a pile of cloth and quietly deciding which pieces could survive the day together. Now we come to the cleaning agents, which is a polite phrase for substances that could clean your shirt and punish your hands at the same time. Modern detergent is engineered to be obedient. It arrives in a bottle or box scented like flowers, rain, lavender, mountains, or some imaginary ocean that has never met a fisherman. It dissolves neatly, it foams when asked. It contains instructions written by people who assume you are tired but basically literate. Older laundry did not always enjoy such diplomacy. Soap existed, of course. People made and used soap for centuries, but soap could be expensive, uneven, harsh, precious, homemade, bought in small amounts, or reserved for the items that most deserved it. It might be made from animal fat and lye, from oils and alkaline salts, from recipes passed down by memory and adjusted by eye. A hard cake of soap might be rubbed directly into fabric, especially at collars and cuffs. Softer soap could be dissolved into water. The smell might be clean in a plain fatty way, or smoky or sharp or faintly barnyard adjacent, depending on what went into it and how well the maker understood the dangerous little chemistry of the pot. Then there was lye. Lye water, often made by running water through wood ash, was a powerful ally against grease and dirt. It was also not something you wanted splashed carelessly into your eyes, onto your skin, or across a cherished piece of dyed fabric, unless you were hoping to create a new household argument. Wood ash itself came from the hearth, which meant laundry was connected to fire even when the washing water was cold. The ash of hardwoods could be leached to produce an alkaline solution. Strong enough it helped saponify fats and loosen oils. Too strong and it could damage cloth or irritate skin. The old laundress, housewife, servant, or washerwoman learned by experience. She knew the feel of the liquid, the look of the water, the behavior of the cloth. She understood that chemistry was happening, even if she never used the word chemistry. The hands knew, the fabric knew, the unfortunate red patch on the wrist knew. Some households added washing soda when it became available. Others used fuller's earth, bronze, soapwort plants, stale urine, or various local recipes. Human beings have always been inventive when faced with grease, odour, and a limited budget, and not every fabric wanted the same treatment. Linen could endure more than wool. Wool was temperamental. Agitate it too much in hot water and it could shrink and felt, turning a useful garment into something suitable for a smaller and more disappointed person. Coloured fabrics might bleed, fine embroidery might suffer, buttons, ribbons, lace, and trims required judgment. This is another reason laundry was skilled labour. It was not simply muscular misery, though there was plenty of that. It was also knowledge. What can be boiled? What must stay cool? What needs soap? What needs ash? What must be washed separately because the dye is untrustworthy and has the moral character of a thief? The wash water became a small chemical landscape. Soap slicked the surface. Ash made it slippery, grease floated loose, dirt sank or smeared or clung stubbornly to seams. The worker bent close, rubbing fabric against itself, against a board, against stone, against knuckles that slowly became red and tender. Steam rose. The room smelled of wet cloth, old fat, smoke, alkaline water, and the faint hope that the shirts might eventually stop smelling like people. There is a gentle, dark comedy in this. The whole purpose is cleanliness, yet the process surrounds you with murky tubs, sour-soaking water, caustic liquids, and hands that become rough enough to qualify as household tools. Before machines, laundry did not simply clean things. It negotiated with dirt using water, heat, chemistry, and pain. At some point, the laundry must be attacked, not metaphorically, quite literally. Before the rotating drum and the electric motor, motion had to come from the body. Dirt was removed because someone rubbed, pounded, slapped, twisted, kneaded, scrubbed, lifted, plunged, and beat the cloth until the grime surrendered, or the person did. The tools varied by region and period. There might be a wooden tub, a trough, a bench, a washboard, a beetle, a paddle, a dolly, a posser, a stone beside a river, or a ribbed surface designed to increase friction and reduce optimism. The principle was simple. Water and soap loosen dirt, agitation removes it. Machines agitate with motors, people agitated with shoulders. Imagine kneeling by a stream with a wet sheet heavy in your hands. The stone in front of you is slick. The water is cold enough to make your fingers complain immediately. You spread the cloth, rub soap into the stained places, fold it, slap it against the stone, rinse, fold again, slap again. The sound is sharp and repetitive. Whack, splash, scrape. Wring again. At home, a washboard gives the hands a ridged surface. You push the cloth down, knuckles close to wood or metal, soapy water running back into the tub. A good rhythm helps, but rhythm does not make the work light. It only makes the misery organized. A posser or dolly, often a wooden plunger with legs or a round head, could be pushed and twisted through the tub to move clothes through hot soapy water. It looks almost cheerful in illustrations, like a rustic kitchen tool. After an hour it feels less cheerful. It becomes a vertical argument between your arms and a tub full of wet linen. Large items are worse. A shirt is manageable, so stocking is almost friendly. A sheet becomes a pale domestic sea creature. It clings to itself. It folds in unhelpful directions. It refuses to reveal which corner is which. It grows heavier with every lift, and when you try to turn it, it drags water across your apron and onto the floor. Blankets, bed ticks, table linens, work clothes, and household cloths each bring their own little personality defects. This was one reason laundry was often done in batches. If you are going to set aside a day for suffering, you may as well invite every shirt. The beating of cloth could be effective, but it also wore fabric down. Every wash was a small controlled damage. Fibers loosened, edges frayed, seams suffered, buttons came off. Mended patches had to survive not only daily use but also the violence of cleaning, so the worker had to balance force with care. Too gentle and the dirt remains smug and comfortable. Too harsh and the garment weakens, tears, shrinks, fades, or becomes the subject of a lecture from someone who did not help wash it. In public washing places, the motion of many bodies made a kind of labour music. Cloth slapped stone, boards rasped, buckets knocked. Women talked over the work because silence would give the work too much dignity. There would be jokes, gossip, complaints, local news, warnings, scoldings, and practical advice shouted across water. Someone would know exactly how to remove a stain, and someone else would explain that this advice had failed last winter and ruined a perfectly good sleeve. Your back bends, your hands redden, your sleeves creep downward no matter how often you push. The water cools, the soap film thins, the tub seems to grow deeper, and slowly, stubbornly the cloth begins to change. Not magically, not completely, but enough that, when lifted from the water, a shirt may look more like a shirt again and less like a biography of hard labour. For some fabrics, washing was not enough. They had to be boiled. This sounds dramatic because it was dramatic. A household could turn laundry into something resembling a small industrial event. Fires burning, pots steaming, tubs waiting, air thick with heat, and someone in charge of making sure the whites became cleaner rather than accidentally becoming soup. Boiling helped whiten linen and cotton, loosen stains, and sanitize cloth. It was especially useful for sheets, underclothes, baby linens, sickroom cloths, and anything that had met life too intimately. But boiling laundry required equipment and nerve. A large copper or iron pot might sit over a fire, water had to be carried and heated, soap or lye solution might be added. The cloth, already soaked or washed, was lowered into the hot liquid with sticks, tongs, paddles, or very careful hands belonging to someone who had learned respect from previous burns. Steam rose in thick clouds. In a small room the walls dampened, hair curled, aprons clung. The air smelled of wet fabric, soap, ash, smoke, metal and heat. If the fire smoked badly, the laundry day became a collaboration between cleanliness and suffocation. The boiling pot had to be watched. Cloth could scorch if it settled badly. Water could boil over. Heavy pieces had to be stirred or lifted. More fuel had to be added. The fire wanted attention like a spoiled prince. And the worker had to move hot wet fabric from pot to tub. This is where laundry becomes especially absurd. Wet cloth is heavy. Hot wet cloth is heavy and dangerous. A sheet pulled from boiling water does not politely drip. It pours, it slaps, it steams, it threatens ankles, hands and floorboards. You lift with a stick or paddle. The cloth sags. A stream of hot water runs back into the pot. Someone tells you to be careful, which is technically correct and entirely unhelpful. Boiling also had social meaning. White linen mattered, clean sheets mattered, visible cleanliness could signal order, respectability, discipline, even morale. A bright white shirt front or cap did not simply say, "This cloth is clean." It said someone did the work, someone had the fuel, someone had the knowledge, someone cared enough, or was required enough to make it happen. The whiteness was not effortless. It was boiled into existence. Some laundries used bucking, a process where cloth was layered with ash or treated with lye water and hot water poured through it. This could be done in tubs or special vessels. The alkaline liquid filtered through the fabric, carrying away dirt and oils. It was clever, effective, and still inconvenient enough to remind everyone that cleverness does not always reduce suffering. In larger households, laundry might be a multi-day operation, soaking one day, washing and boiling the next, rinsing, starching, ironing and folding after that. Servants, washerwomen and hired help might be involved. In poorer homes, the same family members simply absorbed the labour into lives already full of work. Boiling day made the house feel different. The windows fogged, floors became damp, children were warned away from tubs. The fire burned longer than usual. Everyone knew by smell and humidity alone that laundry had taken command. There is a strange coziness to the image if seen from far away. Steam, firelight, white cloth, busy hands. But move closer and the coziness sweats. It has aching wrists. It has a face flushed from heat. It has soap stinging cracked skin. By the end, the boiled cloth may indeed look brighter. The house, however, may look as though a small weather system has passed through it. Once the washing and boiling are done, the soap and loosened dirt must be rinsed away. This is the step modern people forget when imagining old laundry. They picture scrubbing, they picture steam, they picture sheets on a line. But rinsing is its own kingdom of repetition. Soap left in fabric can irritate skin, stiffen cloth, attract dirt, and leave garments feeling unpleasant. Lye or ash solution must be removed thoroughly. Dirty wash water cannot simply be admired and declared finished. The cloth has to be plunged into clean water, lifted, squeezed, turned, plunged again, and rinsed until the water runs clear enough to satisfy whoever is judging the matter. And clean water, as you may remember, does not teleport. If rinsing happens at a river or stream, the water supply is generous but the work is cold and public. If rinsing happens at home, more buckets must be carried. A tub of rinse water grows cloudy quick. Then it must be emptied, refilled and used again, because laundry is apparently committed to discovering how much water one household can move in a day. At the river, rinsing has its own rhythm. You kneel or crouch or bend. You hold the cloth against the current. It billows and pulls, suddenly alive, tugging away from your grip as if the shirt has decided to emigrate downstream. You drag it back, fold it, slap it, spread it, let the water run through it. Cold water numbs the fingers, stones press into knees. The hem of your dress gets wet no matter how careful you are. A breeze moves across the surface and finds every damp place on your body with unnecessary precision. Large linens are especially difficult. A sheet in moving water becomes a sail, a net and a prank. At the same time, it catches the current, twists, balloons and drags. You need strength just to keep it from escaping. If another person helps, the two of you coordinate corners, pulling and dipping and cursing softly in the sacred language of household necessity. At a communal washhouse, rinsing might be easier in some ways and harder in others. There may be troughs with running water, stone basins, wooden platforms, or shared facilities. But shared facilities mean shared opinions. Someone is always watching. Someone always knows a better way to rinse. Someone is always confident that your soap is too strong, your method too lazy, your daughter too pale, or your neighbour's linen suspiciously grey. Laundry is never just laundry where people gather. Rinsing reveals the quality of the wash. Stains that looked defeated may reappear, pale but smug. Soap may cling to thick seams. A collar may need more attention, a sheet may still smell faintly of smoke or bed or illness, and each discovery sends you backward in the process. More rubbing, more rinsing, more water. The hands become wrinkled and sore, the skin around the nails softens. In winter, cracks can open painfully. In summer, insects arrive to inspect the proceedings. The work is wet in every season, but never in quite the same way. There is also a moral pressure in rinsing. Cleanliness must be visible, touchable, smellable. A garment that dries with soap marks or sourness can embarrass the household. Sheets not rinsed well may feel harsh. Baby cloths poorly rinsed may irritate skin. In a world where illness is poorly understood, the cleanliness of linen can feel like a fragile shield, so you rinse again. The water runs through the cloth. The current takes the greyness away. The fabric grows heavier and lighter at once. Heavier with water, lighter with dirt removed. When at last you lift it and the rinse water stays mostly clear, there is relief. Not joy exactly. Laundry is too damp for joy. But relief, yes. The kind of relief that comes from finishing one exhausting step and knowing several exhausting steps remain. Wet fabric holds water with astonishing loyalty. After washing and rinsing, every garment must be wrung, pressed, twisted, squeezed, or otherwise persuaded to release as much water as possible before drying. This is not a decorative step. If cloth is too wet, it drips forever, stretches, freezes, sours, or refuses to dry before the weather changes its mind, so you wring. A small garment can be twisted by hand. You grip one end, twist the other, and feel the rope of fabric tighten. Streams out, first generously, then stubbornly. Your wrists turn, your forearms strain, the cloth creaks faintly. If it is rough linen, it scrapes the skin. If it is wool, you must be gentler, because wool has the personality of a sleepy animal that punishes impatience by shrinking. Large pieces require 2 people if you are lucky. A sheet is held between you. Each person twists in the opposite direction. The wet fabric coils tighter and tighter. Water pours onto the ground or back into the tub. The sheet becomes a thick, pale cable. Hands slip. Someone adjusts their grip. Someone says, "Not that way." Someone else says, "I am doing it exactly that way, because this is how corners work." If you are alone, the work becomes more awkward. You may twist sections at a time. You may press the cloth against a board or tub edge. You may use a mangle if your household or laundry has one. Rollers turned by hand that squeeze water from fabric. A mangle is a wonderful invention until you remember that someone still has to crank it, feed the cloth correctly, and avoid catching fingers in the machinery. Before mechanical wringers became common, the body was the wringer. This is one reason laundry deformed the day around it. After hours of lifting, scrubbing, rinsing, and wringing, the arms are no longer fresh instruments. They are tired ropes attached to a damp person. The back aches from bending. The shoulders burn. The palms are red. The wrists in particular begin to file complaints. And yet wringing cannot be skipped. Too much water in a garment makes drying slow and difficult. Indoors it fills rooms with dampness. Outdoors it weighs down lines, hedges, bushes, grass, or drying frames. In cold weather, soaked fabric can stiffen with ice. In humid weather, it can sour before it dries. So you squeeze more. This is where the weight of cloth becomes intimate. A dry shirt is light. A wet shirt is a small burden. A wet sheet is a decision you regret. A wet blanket is a household animal that has died inconveniently in your arms. The water runs over your hands. It drips from elbows. It finds the inside of your sleeves. It splashes your shoes. It makes the floor dangerous and the worker irritable in a way that even saints would understand. Wringing also damages fabric if done carelessly. Twisting too hard can stretch seams, warp woven cloth, break threads, or strain delicate embroidery. Again, the work demands judgment. strong enough to remove water, gentle enough not to destroy what you just spent hours cleaning. That balance is the hidden intelligence of laundry. Old household labour is often described as unskilled because it happened near kitchens, tubs, cradles and yards rather than in guild halls or factories. But stand over a tub with a week's worth of wet linen and you learn quickly that the work has rules. The cloth has memory. The hands must know what the eyes cannot always see. By the time the wringing is done, the garments are no longer dripping quite so badly. They are not dry, not even close. They are merely wet in a more socially acceptable way. Drying laundry before modern machines meant negotiating with the sky. Today, a dryer is loud, expensive, and occasionally dramatic, but it does not usually care whether rain clouds are forming over the hill. In the older world, the weather was part of the laundry staff, and it had terrible attendance. Sun was precious. Wind was helpful. Dry air was a blessing. A clear morning could make the whole household move faster, because wet cloth needed time outside before evening damp returned. If you had a yard, hedge line, fence, bushes, meadow, drying frame, attic, loft, or stretch of clean grass, you used what you had. White linens might be laid out in the sun to bleach. Grass bleaching could help whiten fabric over time, especially when damp cloth was spread on clean grass and exposed to sunlight. The scene sounds peaceful, sheets glowing in daylight, birds singing, a breeze moving across the yard. Now add mud, chickens, smoke, children, dogs, soot, sudden showers, and the fact that every sheet must be carried outside while still heavy. Drying was not passive. Someone had to hang, spread, turn, check, rescue, and gather the laundry. A line sagged, a peg slipped, a corner touched the ground. A gust of wind tried to introduce your underclothes to the neighbour's cabbage patch. If rain came, the work reversed itself in a panic. Cloth had to be pulled down, brought inside, rehung near fires or in lofts and watched for souring. A whole day's labour could become heavier again under a sudden shower. The sky could undo hours of progress with the casual cruelty of a bored aristocrat. In cities, drying could be even more complicated. Space was limited, air was smoky. Courtyards were crowded, lines stretched from windows across alleys or through shared yards. Laundry absorbed smells from the environment. Coal smoke, cooking, animals, drains, damp walls. Human life stacked closely together. In winter, drying became a slow battle. Clothes hung outside might freeze stiff. A shirt could become a board. Sheets could stand in strange shapes like pale ghosts practicing architecture. Frozen laundry was not necessarily ruined, and sublimation could still dry it slowly, but handling frozen cloth was awkward and unpleasant. Bring it inside too soon, and it thawed into dampness again. Indoors, drying filled rooms with moisture. Garments hung near hearths or on racks. Steam and damp collected on walls and windows. The house smelled of wet linen and smoke. If the fire was too close, fabric could scorch. If it was too far, nothing dried. If the room was crowded, everyone lived among damp sleeves and dripping hems like residents of a very small fog. Drying also exposed class differences. A wealthy household might have more space, servants, specialized laundry rooms, drying grounds, and equipment. A poor family might have one cramped room, a shared yard, or a line strung wherever it could fit. The same basic task existed across society, but the burden fell differently depending on space, fuel, servants, fabric quantity, and weather protection. There was also vigilance. Laundry outside could be stolen. Good linen had value. Sheets, shirts, and cloth represented money and labor. Leaving them unattended was a risk. Someone might watch from a window, send children to check, or keep working nearby. Imagine the end of the day. The washed clothes hang in the last light. Some pieces are dry enough, others are still damp at seams and hems. A sheet feels cool against the cheek when tested. A shirt cuff refuses to dry because cuffs have always been minor villains. You gather what you can, you leave what must remain, you hope the night stays dry. The machine age did not merely make washing easier, it also removed the sky from the laundry schedule. Once laundry was washed, rinsed, wrung and dried, you might think the ordeal was complete. This is a charming mistake. Clean cloth still had to be finished. It had to be smoothed, folded, sometimes starched, sometimes pressed, sometimes mended, sometimes aired, and often inspected with the sort of weary seriousness usually reserved for legal documents and suspicious pies. Wrinkles mattered, shape mattered. In many periods, linen caps, collars, cuffs, shirts, aprons, tablecloths, and household textiles were expected to look orderly. A clean garment that dried into a twisted lump had not achieved its final social form, so heat returned. Flat irons, box irons, sad irons, smoothing irons, heavy metal tools heated by the fire or filled with hot inserts. The name sad iron comes from an older meaning of sad as solid or heavy, which is accurate, though after several hours of ironing the modern emotional meaning may also apply. An iron had to be heated, tested, used, reheated and managed. Too cool and it did little. Too hot and it scorched fabric, leaving brown marks that announced your mistake with permanent confidence. Some workers tested heat by holding the iron near the cheek, touching it to a damp cloth, or using experience sharpened by previous disaster. Ironing required a board, table, blanket, cloth or pressing surface. The worker moved the heavy iron across fabric, smoothing collars, flattening seams, sharpening edges, and trying not to add soot from the hearth to the garment that had just survived washing day. If several irons were available, one could heat while another was used. If not, the rhythm was slower. Press, return to fire, wait, test, press again. Starching added another layer of effort. Starch helped collars, cuffs, caps, ruffs, aprons, and linens hold shape. It could be made from wheat, rice, potatoes, or other sources depending on place and period. The fabric might be dipped or brushed, dried, then ironed carefully. The result could look crisp and respectable. It could also feel stiff enough to remind the wearer that fashion has never been primarily concerned with comfort. Ironing rooms and laundry spaces could be hot, especially after a day already full of boiling and drying. The smell changed again. Warm linen, starch, metal, faint smoke, and the sharp anxiety of not scorching someone's best shirt. There were specialized skills here too. Pleats, collars, cuffs, caps, lace, and fine linen required care. Dutch tablecloths needed space, embroidered pieces needed protection. A servant in a grand house might spend hours finishing textiles to standards that seemed reasonable only to people not holding the iron. Meanwhile, everyday families still had to make clean clothes usable. A shirt might be shaken, smoothed by hand, pressed under a mattress, or ironed if possible. Not everyone had the time or fuel for perfect finishing. Practical life, often wrinkled faster than respectability, could smooth it. Then came folding. Folding sounds peaceful, and sometimes it was. After the wet violence of washing, dry fabric in the hands could feel like progress. Sheets were folded with another person if available. Shirts were sorted. Small items were gathered. Mending needs were noticed: a torn seam, a missing button, a frayed edge, a thin elbow. Laundry was also inspection. Cleaning revealed damage. The wash could loosen old repairs or uncover stains that had survived. A garment might go from drying line to mending basket instead of cupboard. A clean shirt with a hole is still a problem, merely a fresher smelling one. By the time the linens are folded, the day may be nearly gone. The fire has burned down. The tubs are dirty. The floor needs wiping. The worker is tired in a way that seems to have soaked into the bones, and yet the cupboard now holds clean cloth. For a little while, order has been restored. Not all laundry happened inside one family's home. As towns grew and households specialized, washing became paid labor. Washerwomen took in clothes. Laundresses served wealthier homes. Servants managed laundry as part of domestic service. Institutions, inns, hospitals, barracks, ships, and workshops all needed cloth cleaned, and none of that cleanliness appeared by magic. Professional washing could be skilled, exhausting, poorly paid, and essential. A washerwoman might collect bundles from households or work at public washhouses and rivers. She needed strength, knowledge, space, water access, fuel, soap or cleaning agents, drying arrangements, and a reliable memory for whose linen belonged to whom. Mixed shirts could cause more drama than the shirts deserved. Laundry marks helped. Initials, symbols, stitch tags, or household marks identified pieces. In a world where cloth was valuable and many items looked similar, keeping track was serious business. A missing sheet could mean lost income, suspicion, accusation, or debt. For servants in large houses, laundry was part of a hierarchy of domestic work. There might be laundry maids, housemaids, cooks, scullery maids, nurses, and others whose labor intersected around linen. Wash day could disrupt the whole household. Fires burned, water moved, lines filled, rooms steamed, and baskets traveled like damp messengers of obligation. The labor was often gendered. Women and girls did much of it, though men also worked in commercial laundries, fulling, textile finishing, or transport depending on place and industry. The association of laundry with women helped hide its difficulty. Work done by women at home has often been treated as natural, as if backs, wrists, lungs, and hours are not real resources, but paid laundry made the value visible. Clean shirts had a price, clean sheets had a price. The whiteness of respectable linen rested on someone's labor, and that someone might be a poor woman standing for hours in wet shoes. Washerwomen developed reputations. A good laundress was trusted. She returned items clean, undamaged, properly dried, and not suspiciously grey. She knew stains, she knew fabrics, she knew weather. She knew which customer would complain, which would pay late, and which owned linen of such delicate temperament that it probably deserved its own priest. The work could be communal and independent, but also precarious. Illness, bad weather, fuel costs, soap prices, lost items, injury, and competition all mattered. Laundry did not wait because the rent was due. Dirty clothes accumulated with democratic enthusiasm. Public wash spaces became social landscapes. Women could earn, talk, argue, share news, build networks, and also endure surveillance and judgment. The wash house offered both community and exposure. Everyone saw whose linen was filthy, whose household had many baby cloths, whose sheets were worn, whose shirts suggested prosperity or decline. Cleanliness carried social signals, and washerwomen handled those signals directly. They touched the private evidence of other people's lives: sweat, illness, childbirth, work, food, age, poverty, luxury, carelessness, respectability, all of it came bundled in cloth. This made laundry strangely intimate. The washerwoman might never dine with the family whose linen she cleaned, but she knew the state of their cuffs. She knew whether stains were hidden or impossible. She knew whether the fine household truly owned enough sheets to behave so proudly. There is humour in that, gentle and sharp. The old world kept many secrets badly folded, and the person at the wash tub often knew more than she was paid to say. The washing machine did not arrive all at once like a fairy godmother with a motor. It came slowly through experiments, hand-cranked devices, wringers, tubs with paddles, early mechanical washers, steam laundries, electric motors, plumbing, mass production, and the long uneven spread of household technology. For many people, the old ways continued long after inventions existed, because invention is not the same thing as affordability. But the dream was clear: reduce the labor. Move the water mechanically. Agitate the cloth without destroying the worker. Squeeze water with rollers instead of wrists. Let a machine turn while the human body does something other than bend over a tub. Early machines still required effort. Water had to be added. Clothes had to be fed through wringers. Motors could be dangerous. Fingers could be caught. Electricity and wet laundry made their own nervous partnership. A machine was not always simple, safe, or cheap. Yet compared with the older full-day ordeal, even partial mechanization was astonishing. A hand-cranked washer might spare some scrubbing. A wringer might save arms from twisting heavy sheets. A dedicated laundry room with piped water could remove the endless carrying of buckets. A stove designed for heating water, a copper boiler, a mangle, a line system, each improvement clipped a little time from the edges of wash day. Then came the automatic washing machine, and with it a quiet revolution in domestic time, not perfect freedom. Laundry still exists, as anyone who has ever ignored a basket for 3 days can confirm. Machines break, socks vanish, detergent runs out. A wet load forgotten overnight can develop a personality, but the scale changed. The modern machine hides the violence. Inside the drum, water enters, soap dissolves, fabric tumbles, dirt loosens, rinse cycles begin, water drains, spinning extracts moisture with a force no human wrist could sustain for long. The machine performs in a sealed metal chamber a compressed version of soaking, agitating, rinsing and rinsing. What once required fires, tubs, rivers, stones, boards, buckets, mangles, and a day's bodily endurance became something that could happen. While breakfast dishes waited, children argued, emails arrived, or someone lay down and briefly pretended the rest of the chores had disappeared. This changed expectations too. When washing became easier, people washed more often, standards rose, clothing ownership increased. Cleanliness became more regular, more private, more assumed. The old visible labor faded from memory until clean shirts seemed ordinary, and a fresh bed seemed less like a miracle of water, fuel, and sore hands. But beneath the hum of the modern machine, The older day is still there, the fetched water, the cold fingers, the lie, the steam, the slap of linen on stone, the wringing arms, the anxious glance at the weather, the heavy iron near the fire, the tired person folding cloth at the end of a day that had been almost entirely claimed by laundry. So tonight, as the story settles, you can imagine the old wash day slowly fading into evening. The tubs are emptied, the fire is low, the last sheets hang pale in the dusk. Somewhere a pair of hands rests at last, roughened, clean and very tired, and in the quiet cupboard folded linen waits, not just as fabric, as evidence of a day's work, a day that machines would one day shrink but never completely erase.